So I do have a question. Now that the actress formerly known as Ellen Page is now Elliot Page.
Yeah.
And Netflix has changed all of her credits retroactively.
Their
as much
credits.
as they can. Or his credits, excuse me. How many can they go back to and change?
I mean, I assume anything they have listed. It doesn't have to be like their whole filmography.
And is that what I assume that's what Elliot in this case wants? But like, you know, at the time she was Ellen Page. You know what I mean? Or he was Ellen Page at the time.
I guess I understand what
like
you're
that's
saying.
that's
like
the confusing part for me is the time aspect. You know.
Yeah.
It's like I can totally accept you now consider yourself, and you have considered yourself for a while as non-binary, gender fluid, and transitioning now to a male person. I don't know if you want to say personality or however have you, but like at the time you referred to yourself as Ellen Page. So like, does that still hold ground, or does that change with time? Like, do we retroactively change everything?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to refer to like the LGBTQ rulebook, because it's like I don't know, because like I understand where you're kind of in that sort of limbo of confusion. You yourself, I'm kind of in there myself, where it's like, do you stick to who they identified themselves in that moment, or do you retroactively change that to who they identify as now?
Yeah, and even more so for the idea of just record keeping, because it's like, do you want that to be, do you want that time period to just have not existed at all, or to be like rewritten retroactively?
I mean, it's not like it didn't happen, you know.
Right, but that's kind of what I mean, you know. Like, is every new copy of Juno gonna be credited to Elliot Page as opposed to Ellen Page? You know what I mean? But that's for people much more cultured on the subject are gonna decide, and I'm just gonna have to listen, which is fine. That's a cool place to be in.
We'll learn in time. I'm sure that the higher ups in this sort of realm will give us the ruling one day.
Absolutely. As long as those higher ups aren't Uri Geller, that piece of shit.
You're still on that.
I'm still upset about that stupid ass story taking up 10 minutes of my time.
Oh my god. Well, we've got plenty of great, wholesome, meaningful stories for this week's podcast, I'm sure.
Well, why don't we start with our weeks? Why don't we start with the story of our life? The story of what we've been doing this week.
Sounds good.
What have you been watching this week, Brando?
What have I been watching? A bunch of shit. And, of course, hello to the old listeners. Welcome to the Otaku Remix Podcast, the whole intro spiel. My name's Brando. That's Chris. And let's go ahead and get started with this week. This week, in my watching, you know how I be. And that says I have a very consistent simulcast kind of viewing schedule. I watch the Jujutsu Kaisens, I watch the Haikyus, I watch the Climbing Girls, I watch all of my normal stuff. I've been actually even catching up on One Piece.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's been fun. Fall. Technically, the fall anime simulcast has so much, in the sense it has 38 new simulcasts this season.
Wow.
So
Jesus
it's like
Christ.
Yeah, it's a lot to pick from. Actually, so this is just like a lot of me bouncing around right now. I want to get back eventually. I watched, I think, 1-2 episodes of the Moriarty anime, and I just haven't gone back to it. I'm sure I've got like 6 or 7 to catch up on. I've been watching Akudama Drive. This is more of a rant at this point, but
no, that's fair. But it's like but you haven't been able to complete anything just because they've been in simulcast.
Yeah, they're still kind of trucking along. I'll say notably from this week, Haikyuu was fantastic. The episode was called like The Rise of the Serene King or whatever it was called, and super fun, hype, everything you want out of a Haikyuu episode. Really highlighting specifically the character Kageyama and mostly just him. Yeah. I mean, a little bit of Tanaka-san as well, but it was just a lot of fun. Like, they're reaching the climax of this main match that's basically being focused on for the season, and it is just it's right at the end. I thought it was going to end right here at this episode because of the score in the game. It's like basically something's got to give, and but now they can squeeze out one more episode to finish this round off. But it's been a fantastic season. Great animation. I'm super looking forward to the next season in whatever shape or form it takes, because I haven't read the manga for Haikyuu, so I really haven't spoiled myself in any fashion when it comes to that. as opposed to like what I would do for other anime.
Yeah, God, I always hate when people do that, and like they're the people I talk to, like Attack on Titan, for example. So many people read ahead.
Yeah,
I
know a lot of people
and,
who did that for Attack on Titan.
It's just so disappointing because then I have nobody to talk to about the moment-to-moment stuff.
It's not like, obviously I don't shame those people. It's just a matter of those people, it's depending on how they carry themselves. Like, this is a good conversation we could kind of lead into. People who've read the manga of an anime that's airing and being...
Need to shut the fuck up.
Either being like, you know, they think that they're that motherfucker in the anime that's like, the guy who's holding all the cards, who's like, props up his glasses with his two fingers. This fucking shimmer comes out, and he's like, "You fool!" Like, you have
some
no
of
idea.
Them can absolutely, but I don't think it comes. I don't think a lot of it comes to that maliciousness. If anything, it comes from a much sadder part of the humanity, in that you can't fucking have any restraint.
Oh yeah. There is a sincere lack of consideration.
Christ, can you not wait?
I know.
No, I need it now.
Yeah. No, there's a ton of times I've been spoiled with a lot of ongoing long-term manga, like Naruto, Bleach, whatever. For when, and those are all manga that I've read, but like in moments where like I fell behind or whatever the fuck happened, and I'm watching the anime, and suddenly someone tells me something that I didn't want to hear, and blah 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 blah. We've all been there, where someone spoils some shit from the manga, and I'm trying to do my best to not have that. I know you're trying to do your best to not have that happen with Attack on Titan. I'm trying to do my best to have that happen with Haikyuu, and with many other series. And yeah, like, just if you're reading the manga of an ongoing anime, and your friends aren't, just be polite, or at least just ask.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most people are good about it to some fashion. There are some people who just don't fucking get it, but I usually don't surround myself with those types of people.
Yeah, just ask. All you have to do is ask, like, hey, I want to tell you about this thing that happens in Food Wars. It's like, oh, you want to talk about Food Wars? Okay. Well, I'm on episode so-and-so. It's like, oh, well, I finished the manga. We'll be like, word. Well, don't tell me how it ends. It's like, suck my dick. Let me tell you how it ends.
You know what it is? It's more so, like, because that is just people being douchebags if they do that. Yeah. What's worse is when people get overly hyped, like a 15-year-old.
Yeah, in the moment.
And they're just like, oh, I just want to reference everything that just happened. I just want to repeat it like it's a pop song.
Yeah.
And it's like, just hold it in.
These are the sins of the spoilers. It's like
this is why it's so important to be able to describe things without just repeating what they are. Because if you can do that, you can avoid this issue. You can explain your hype for something without completely spoiling it for the other person.
Yeah, because then otherwise you're like that douchebag that fucking walks out of the movie and just says everything to everybody who's in line for it. It's like,
oh my god. I love listening to post-movie conversations. It's always so funny.
Oh my god! Every time,
different people.
I love hearing, because I'm in the line and I'm like, in my head, and like you and I went to go see Endgame. Like,
yes,
and in those moments there were people that were coming out before us, and I've been to a lot of movie premieres of that ilk, where like you're there midnight and you're there to watch some sort of film, whether it's like Star Wars or some whatever hoopla it is. And you can't help but listen to what people are saying as they walk out of the movie theater. Like, it is like, you can wear earmuffs, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but you're not going to be able to not hear these people as they, there's crowds of hundreds of people typically walking out. And in those crowds, I like listening to them because I like to hear impressions, not full details of the plot. Right. I just want to hear like, oh man, that was a fantastic scene, this, that, God, it shocked me, exasperation, emotion, people crying if it is that sort of, movie. But I don't want to hear like, God, the part where Jesus, showed up and saved the Avengers. Like, that was pretty wild. Like,
it's like, and your ears perk up and they're like, why are they talking about Captain Marvel?
Yeah. So
no, but even better for me, because that sucks, don't get me wrong, but even better for me is like, I'm gonna somewhat spoil the end of Gran Torino, a 10-year-old plus movie at this point.
Wait, you haven't finished Gran Torino?
The movie.
No, I know. I've seen it.
Yeah,
the Clint Eastwood film. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to spoil it for like 1 second just to talk about post-theater discussion.
Oh, okay, it's fine. I've seen the film. I just wanted to make sure.
So the end of that movie, the plot of it is more or less Clint Eastwood having to protect a young Asian fellow from a like in-town gang that is trying to push him to sell drugs or whatever. And the way that Clint Eastwood defeats these gang members is by tricking them into shooting him, by making them think he has a gun on him when he approaches their property. And so when they shoot him, I think he dies. I actually forget that part, but
I believe he does.
Yeah, and he gets carried away, and it's revealed, oh, he didn't have a weapon on him at all, so this is how the gang members are going to get arrested. And so that happens, and that's a poignant moment for a lot of reasons. It's actually a lot of meta commentary for Clint Eastwood's career, but like,
interesting.
We come out. I was with my girlfriend at the time. We're coming out of the movie theater, and we listen to another couple talking near us, and you hear the girl whisper to her boyfriend, "Why didn't he just have a gun on him?" And it's like, God. Oh, sweetheart, you just don't understand things.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that. Where like I had a kind of conversation about something like this weekend, where I rewatched the Code Geass film, the most recent one, Lelouch of the Resurrection. Yeah. And now I will spoil a 10-year-old anime, if necessary.
If necessary.
And well, I mean, I will. It is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
But you know how the ending of Code Geass is, where
I do.
Lelouch's
my
demise.
Least favorite part. Oh, excuse me. I know what you're getting to, though.
Yeah, and so I said I have a sort of love-hate relationship with this film because I think the film is very fun. It's very, I think, imaginative. But I really do think that the continuation of the story is a little bit demeaning to what I felt was...
It undercuts the ending of the original series
to entirely. What I felt was, my opinion, I know, contrary to yours, I thought it was a very beautiful ending.
I'm sorry, the part that you're mentioning, which is Lelouch's death at the end of the series, is not my least favorite part. It's the thing that happens just before that.
Yeah. You don't like the screwball stuff where things get a little bit more supernatural and jump killing God and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
But yes, Lelouch's sacrifice at the end is very poignant and very appropriate for the character. And so the fact that they need to resurrect this character more for the cynical reason of the show continuing is just kind of... It's a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah.
And so I watched it with a few of our friends, and one of them present was like, she didn't understand why that made me feel that way. I was like, I feel like it lessens it. And she was present, and she was just like, why? It's like great that he's back. And I'm like, you don't understand, like, in connection to what was a very meaningful, impactful, and like beautiful ending to a story that should have closure. Now it has no weight because he just, well, not no weight, but, less weight because of the fact that it's like a cop-out.
I think the difference in that perception is more so that, like, for the person that just takes things as, like, I enjoy this or I don't enjoy this, it's a lot more about the power fantasy. And so when things suck in the power fantasy and then they get better, it's always universally good. But for us, I think we try sometimes too hard to find the message and the artwork and the spiritual meaning in some regards in a lot of these shows that are largely made for an audience that is much younger than us.
No, we do. We definitely overanalyze a lot of material, but it's like...
And so when you're looking for that connection, that humanity in the show, when things like circumventing death really makes a big disconnect, like, because death is not something you simply circumvent. It is a costly and heavy thing, and just acting like it never happened is kind of shitty, in my opinion.
No, for certain.
I know a lot of people do enjoy it.
And again, I did too, but I feel like we're probably circling the drain a little bit on this conversation at this point.
A little bit, but you know what? I think it actually kind of goes into the show that we did plan on talking about this week, which was Great Pretenders.
Yes, The Great Pretender. A fantastic show. I really had fun with it. Again, like we've mentioned before, again, we're talking mostly about season 2, its overall conclusion. And now you are like just scratching the edge of it. You're about...
Yeah, I'm on the last 2 episodes. I'm basically... I'm assuming episodes 8's going to be the climax of everything, see who's on whose side and how things play out. And then episode 9 is going to be the conclusion and resolution of everybody's plot.
Yeah, essentially. Like 8 kind of more or less wraps up this...
heist, yeah.
This heist, so to speak, and then 9 basically goes over everything that leads into that heist, I think. If I remember correctly. Wait, so how did 7 end again?
So 7 ends...
they're about to have the meeting, right?
Let's just go from the beginning. Like, because for those who haven't seen season 1 of Great Pretenders, if you want to listen to our review, we have it in the playlist channel, and you can just look that up. So we're going to go straight into season 2. Season 2 surrounds the continuation of Edamon and his father in the war between the Japanese, not the war, but it's like a turf battle more or less between the Chinese and Japanese mobs that are affiliated with a child slavery ring. And it... Okay. So the here's the thing. It's a heist show. So it's largely a power fantasy. This is not like a hero's tale where we have to see the characters overcome a like personal journey. Because, and this is where like I don't want to say frustrations, but this is where I don't like the show kind of loses me, is that our main character doesn't have a lot of agency up until the last episode. Which is nice, and I like how it's turning in those last couple episodes. But like, because he's being so led along by Laurent and stuff like that, I almost wish that the show's focused centered around Laurent, because he's the much more interesting character of the cast.
He definitely has a lot more...
he has way more agency.
He's a lot more agency, and he's a lot
even
more
though
rounded,
he acts
honestly.
aloof. Like, he's the one always pulling the strings, so it'd be a lot more fun for me to see how he's pulling all those strings.
I mean, you get to up until that point where you are, like, you've now internalized everything.
And we get that. We get that in these last 2 episodes, I would say. Mm-hmm. But, like, you know, I think it could have been a bit more fun following him as opposed to Edmon.
Yeah, Edamura, yeah. He's...
Edamura, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. I think it's an interesting design overall, narratively, how they've kind of structured the overall anime, the story of it, because, like, you have that first season, which is, I believe, in the same realm of episodes, maybe, like, 9 or so episodes, I believe. Maybe 10 or 11, 12, maybe, at the most. But, those series of 3 main, like, heists... Yeah. You know, the Hollywood heist, the Saudi Arabian heist, I believe, and then the London heist between the 3 of them.
Yep.
And all vignettes, all of them relating to the individual characters, mostly. No one really... I mean, the first one just introduced everybody. The second one mostly relating to Abby, and the second one mostly relating to... forget her name. The very Lucy? Attractive older woman.
I think it's Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy. Thank you. Yeah. And then this last one is just a huge, like... overlapping and all-encompassing heist that encompasses Laurent and Edamura and their lives and everything that has been done up until this point, even.
They literally mentioned that every heist has been leading up to this one.
Yeah, and then every other heist's results, you'll see in the final episodes, have an effect on how this one plays out.
Yeah.
And
how do you feel about that?
Well, having seen it all,
everything leading up to a climax.
I think it's very
an orchestrated climax, I should say.
As I said, I think it's interesting how they structured it, because this is like a behemoth of a narrative for this one final heist, like 9 episodes to really kind of encompass one sort of, which is inherently what the entire season, what the entire show is you know. It's the nucleus. It's everything revolves around, essentially. It's pretty interesting. I think that it's written pretty well. in the sense of how it all the connective tissue seems to make sense. None of it is very none of it seems very flimsy. None of it seems weak in logic or like in timing. So I feel like a lot of it, the plausibility of it makes it feel stronger, and also I really can relate to the motivations of each individual character within this sort of tangled web that has led us to this finale. Obviously, Lawrence's personal motivations with regards to
Dorothy.
Yeah, exactly, Dorothy, and then Inamura with his relationship with his father and everything that goes into, being undercover, and then et cetera, to this final conclusion. As a heist story, it's super fun. There's a lot more drama in this final story because I think the narrative's finally leaning into it. All these other stories kind of felt, up until this point, very ancillary. Very.
But that's what I liked about it. Like, and so you say it's more dramatic, but I think what you're more pointing to, because each story has its own dramatic arcs, but like this one in particular makes it feel like almost a world-ending situation. You know what I mean? Where the drama is not self-contained within its own events. It reaches outside of the immediate events going on. It has larger implications, or has historical implications for the cast and crew.
I really don't see it as like world-ending or anything. I don't think it's
world-ending for these characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It has to have grave stakes to have some sort of meaning, and also it's like I feel like it is sort of still within the realm of like, it's not so grandiose that I feel like it's like overstretching its bearings. Like for a story, it's like a gang war, like it's not exactly
right.
But related to like human trafficking and obviously the stakes within each character, like what it means personally to them, is great. But
I just think that it. And I guess it's more so what I want out of it, which is not fair, but whatever. I'm the asshole critiquing it. So it's that basically when you have when I thought these separate heists were all somewhat unrelated, the immediate drama was a lot more palpable and a lot more like easy to digest in the moment. It lets the pace become really quick and really frantic, and lets you get kind of caught up in the moment to moment aha moments that heists really need, unless you are really good at showing how the cast and crew adapt on the go, which I think the second and third heists do really well. But the first heist and this fourth concluding heist have a lot of I've thought everything out to the last detail sort of shenanigans, and that's where it gets a little frustrating as trying to relate to the cast members, because there's just too much. There's too much overthinking in a lot of these heist movies, and you sort of lose the relatable factor that these characters have, because they instead of being humans that are being creative and thinking on the go and struggling moment by moment just to make the current situation work, it's almost like watching a supercomputer work. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're kind of trying to say. Like characters that are impossibly clever,
intelligent,
and intelligent, that have every scenario planned out for, and kind of create this wild, impossible scheme. Almost become Superman-esque, like there was never any danger to begin with.
Exactly. That's what Laurent kind of feels like because of his Shadow Master role. And to be fair, they kind of acknowledge it by giving him the title of Oz. I mean, granted, that's Inamura's father, but it's also Laurent. Laurent kind of inherits that title as well. And so they kind of acknowledge that both of these characters are are huge masterminds that just think everything out to a T, but like it's still the characters just become so unrelatable to me at that point, and I really want to kind of see them struggle to make everything work. Like that's what the first Ocean's movie does so well with its heist, is that the first half of it is that planning and you seeing how that meticulous planning works out, but the second half is seeing like how it's executed and how the little fuck ups need to be adjusted for, and like and the on-the-go thinking and clever reactions that kind of make it a lot more relatable to what I think is a wider audience. That being said, there are plenty of twists and turns in Great Pretender that will surely entertain a lot of folks, and the production is very high value, probably
fantastic,
up there with most of Trigger's productions and anything Madhouse does in-house.
Yeah, I believe Production IG and somebody else are on this, and Production IG does fantastic stuff.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is that they reuse a lot of music at certain points, and it just becomes very obvious, especially when there's vocal lines in the music. But that's kind of a minor nitpick, I guess.
Yeah. In general, I mean, I think that it's overall fantastic. I understand what you're trying to say, like where the mechanical overpoweredness of some of these characters can start to make them unrelatable. I think there are still relatable elements to all the characters.
There are in their motivations. It's more so in how they operate that is not relatable.
No, I understand that. Yeah, I mean, Edamura, with his like you said, with his motivations with regards to his father and like that sort of complex relationship that he has with regards to like how his mother had to deal with that, and the same thing with Laurent having lost the person that he loves most, and how that kind of fuels him moving forward into the situation that they find themselves at the end of the anime. But yeah, no, overall I think that it's still a very worthwhile show. Like you said, production wise extremely high. Like I still love the art design, like just the general, not only the character design, but I mean like the scenery, like the way that the color palettes are used. Super, I don't even know what you would call it, like pop comic art, like deco shit. I don't even know.
Yeah, definitely using a lot of pop deco between its own color aesthetic, as well as choosing really precise themes for different cities, which is really helpful because this is a globe-trotting affair. And as well as giving each character very unique designs while not going so far out of the realm of possibility, except for Dorothy. Dorothy is the one character design that I'm like, Japan, why do you keep making albino black women?
Do they make albino black women often? I mean, what do you mean albino? You mean like with silver hair?
Elena, the Guilty Gear cast, like...
There's an albino black woman in the Guilty Gear cast?
Yeah, it's oh my god, what's her freaking name?
I know this is the new samurai dude.
Yeah, but oh my god, I'm blanking so hard right now and I feel really bad. She's not albino, but because of her hat and her clothing, Ramlethal kind of has that similar like white on black design, and it's just like, I don't know. It's you know what it is that somebody pointed it out to me recently, and I'm just like, yeah, that is really common. Like the few black women that are in anime are typically white haired for some reason.
Yeah, I've seen weird design choice. And the same game, like you said, like the other dude, the black dude who's the samurai in Guilty Gear.
No, but I'm just specifically talking about black women. Actually, that's more what I'm trying to pinpoint here. But even then, she's a very interesting design, and she definitely stands out. But it was just one of those things that's like every other character is like kind of grounded in their design, even if their actions are not. But like, yeah, Dorothy for me is like out of this world, which might be the point, like why Lauren is so head over heels about her, is that she's larger than life. But yeah, that design just didn't really, just kind of really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a character design. I don't know if it's indicative of anything, but it's definitely, I mean, interesting to see at least to see a pattern out of it. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think this was general positive sentiments from both of us about doing Great Pretender. So definitely check it out if you haven't. Love to hear some thoughts. But moving on, not too much else noteworthy as far as anime is concerned. Like I mentioned, manga wise, I think I mentioned to you earlier before the podcast started, my beloved Chainsaw Man is ending next week. In December 14th, chapter 96, the final chapter of Shonen Jump's Chainsaw Man. I'm sure an anime will be released or announced any day now for Chainsaw Man. But that's been a fun ride. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Also in manga news, this manga has already ended, and it's a manga that really needs no introduction, but Kimetsu no Yaiba, aka Demon Slayer, basically single-handedly holding up the Japanese economy as much as it can. The final volume of it released over the weekend, this past weekend as we are recording, and they were tons of fun tweets coming out of Japan and screenshots of, well, not screenshots of IRL, those are called photos, of people, with around the fucking block lines for this final volume at bookstores everywhere in Tokyo and whatnot, in the cities in Japan, and it is just cool to see that story come to a conclusion and seeing people super excited. I'm just so surprised. Like, we've talked about it at length before, you and I. Just like we're just still kind of. It's not like it's not a quality story. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's a quality anime or anything like that.
It's not a quality story. It's a quality anime and it's a quality manga in terms of the artwork. But
I feel like the response is still surprising to me. Oddly, it's like I find it to be a very fun show. Don't get me wrong. I find the production quality of it very. I think the composition, the action, the animation is all really, high level. The story is like, it's okay, it's like...
It's fine. I think, you know what it is, and I would have to look into the demographics of, like, who is buying this. Because you said it had a lot of international pull.
It does. A lot of North
but
America.
I have a feeling it's just for an audience that's slightly younger than where we're at in our lives.
I mean,
and
yeah,
so,
for sure.
And so, well, yeah, obviously it's shonen, but like it's never gonna be surprising that a younger audience has that kind of like bigger cultural pull. Like, you know what I mean? That like they will come out in the masses for this sort of stuff. And ultimately, I am kind of curious what makes that younger audience tick. Like what gets them out. Because it's stuff like My Hero, it's stuff like Naruto back in our day, it's stuff like not so much Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball's had a longer burn.
This kind of reminds me of a sort of a synonymous situation, so to speak. And I'm going to kind of like make a loose parallel here. I remember seeing, this is an interview with Makoto Shinkai, the director of Your Name and Weathering with You and a bunch of other fantastic films, Garden of Words, etc., who's been called, one of the many directors, the auteurs of Japanese cinema, animation cinema, as of the last 10 years that have been kind of lauded as the new Miyazaki, quote unquote. He's probably the one that's been pushed on it the most, I'll say, only because of his monetary success. Another one, Mamoru Hosoda has also been called the new Miyazaki, but I don't think he's had nearly as much money come his way as Shinkai. Yeah. And he's shirked, as they all do, they shirk the things like there can only be one Miyazaki. I mean, because obviously, yes, we get it. There can only be one Miyazaki, but it's the title, it's the notion of you leading the Japanese animation cinema industry as it is. And the way he mentions it is like, yes, I don't want to be slave to that title, but I also would like to stir emotions like him. But, he's also, the reason I bring this up, this parallel, is because Shinkai and his films are extremely successful, and you and I believe that they're extremely marginalized and they have some pretty I don't want to call them boring, but generalized themes.
They have overlapping plot qualities and theme qualities.
I mean, as any auteur does, a lot of times they run back to the same themes, but the point being that it touches the new generation. It definitely has an effect. It resonates with them in a deep way. And that's something that I'm continually trying to explore as to why. Why it doesn't resonate as much with me. Because I find the entirety of Miyazaki's films, and this isn't like a dick measuring contest, to be much more emotionally resonant with me than anything that Shinkai has put out, say for Garden of Words.
I haven't watched Garden of Words.
It's short. It's like 45 minutes.
But it does generally feel like there is a marketing influence involved here, where at the time that, and this is like a brainstorming theory, so if I'm completely wrong, my apologies. But like at the time that Miyazaki was producing his films, there was only Disney to compete. I say only Disney. That's like the hardest competition ever.
Disney sponsored them.
but Disney sponsored them because it was because they were looking for a different audience. They saw something in Miyazaki's work, and they were looking for a different audience that they were not already getting with their own films.
Yeah.
And that allowed for a lot of, I want to say, liberation for Miyazaki's ideas. Like, I don't see Shinkai being able to do something like Grave of the Fireflies on a whim.
No, or like,
and I'm not saying he's not creatively able to do it. I'm saying that he would not get the finance to do it.
The thing about that is, though, which is an interesting point you bring up, is that I believe Shinkai and Mamoru Hosoda, for that matter, have their own animation studios now with the money they've accumulated. Both of them.
But they still, I'm sure they still have a, not even a bottom line, but they still have a financial board and a marketing board that need to be appeased.
They are still slave to certain ideas, certain concepts in the market, probably more so these days to marketing metrics than Miyazaki ever was, or maybe he's just so damn principled or some shit that he just wants to go after whatever he wants to go after.
I mean, you're not going to see Shinkai go out and say, you know what, Japanese voice actresses, y'all are too cute acting. You're all too demure.
I know, right?
Unlike Miyazaki, who's a grouchy old fuck.
Oh yeah, he's all the way in the irreverent stage of his life. You know, he's very much a paragon. I love everything he stands for, as far as like all the sort of, not again, the quote is not quote for quote, but the anime is a mistake situation is not exactly what he said, but a lot of those types of sentiments I appreciate because they come from a very genuine place.
Right. But that's the point, is that Shinkai is like, he's sort of like Joss Whedon in a sense, or even more
he's like
so,
the J.J.
or even
Abrams.
so like J.J. Abrams, I was gonna say, where he does have his own vision. Don't get me wrong, but he is still very much ingrained in the modern cinematic or anime culture. And
he's your big budget Hollywood motherfucker who just
exactly.
He'll get you your audience. He's very in tune stylistically with what people are into, like what affects people these days.
Yeah, and so you're not going to get anything that challenges the general understanding of what's going on in the world. Yeah, you're not going to get, if you want shit like that, the most groundbreaking in terms of like pushing against the system movie that came out from Japan is Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, I know, right?
That movie was a big middle finger to a lot of people that do not enjoy getting the middle finger.
No, they do not.
But he was able to do it. I forget the director's name, the writer's name, Evangelion's writer. But like, you don't see a lot of writers and directors of that ilk getting the big push that people like Shinkai do.
Yeah, no, they do.
Somehow Miyazaki has kind of towed that line of being palatable for a large audience, as well as being, I don't want to say controversial in some regards, but being like being undeterred from bringing up harsh realities of the world.
I think it's a little bit different. I think that Japanese culture, on many levels, is very risk averse, extremely risk averse. When it comes to business transactions, specifically when it comes to life decisions, on the whole. And so, in the department of filming of a majorly, a huge budget anime like film, Hollywood style, it's like they're gonna definitely push for things that have very positive, safe metrics, like high school romance. And like,
right, I get you, but like you're saying, it's Japanese culture, but again, freaking Miyazaki didn't do that for a large portion of his career.
No, I mean, I think that's
so, and I'm trying to make the comparison between him and Shinkai and like what differentiates them, and I think it's partially the times. I think the audience for anime is largely just kind of wants that safe, continual, non-boundary pushing environment, and that there are only a few products of it that come out that kind of even tiptoe around controversial subject matter, that is not clear good and evil kind of stuff.
No, yeah, you're right. There's
I think Persona 5 pushed it a little bit. Maybe it was even more controversial out in Japan. I really doubt it, but it definitely brought up some topics that are very real in Japan, if not for a lot of other cultures, and that are very I don't know if it's taboo or not, but like even bringing up the fact that Japan has a almost suspiciously high level of prosecution success in their system, that a subject like that, I'm surprised, can even get brought up in a effectively AAA game. So, but like outside of that, I can't think of any off the top of my mind. So
I think that you're right in the sense that there's a huge market for what I guess what we would call safe media. Things that definitely play to a template, play to tropes and memes of what anime and stories should be like, quote unquote, should be like, or have been like, and have known to be successful. Like you see this in the huge prevalence of, I would say, the isekai genre, which are just so many stories mirroring each other, so many power fantasies with no facial value, like no distinction between each of them. Same thing with a lot of other like sort of idol anime as well, but and then you get films that you know are the extension of that, and there isn't a lot of media, a lot of anime that come out that are willing to push the boundaries, because so much, you know, so often people lean into those tropes.
Yeah,
you don't get a lot of things that are like Attack on Titan or Mob Psycho 100, or you know, things that are so divergent that they push any sort of unique narrative, whether it be social commentary like Persona 5, or things like, I think that even in the Yakuza series there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, kind of. The Yakuza series is its own beast in a manner, though, because it weirdly romanticizes the Yakuza.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it hugely, it does. But it does address.
I love that series because of how unafraid it is to be goofy as shit.
Yeah, it's so campy, oddly, at times.
But the morals of that series are questionable at best.
Yeah, definitely makes the Yakuza. There's got to be like Yakuza money involved at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sega has some backing from the old days. I'd be surprised if they still have heavy influence from the Yakuza, but there have been rumors back in the arcade era that there was Yakuza influence, and that was how it helped them compete against Nintendo at the time.
Yakuza propaganda.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, no. I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's just.
This is my headcanon at this point. It's like, look, like they're either like, you know, they're pitching.
I think it's as much propaganda as like a gangster movie is in the United States. You know what I mean?
Hey man, you play Call of Duty, suddenly you want to join the army, but like every now and then you
okay, no, that shit is real ass propaganda. They do not give a fuck.
And and then you've got, you know, people in Japan it's like, we'll make a very fun action RPG.
Well, now it's turn-based.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. And then
7's a turn-based one. I nearly died when I heard about it.
And it's like,
apparently it's great, so I can't mess
how do we get more people to join us, brother? Let me tell you. First,
have you heard of a man called Kiryu-chan? This is a side tangent because I think we're off the subject of serious art discussion. But have you heard why Kiryu is not allowed into fighting games?
I do not know.
Because there's been a lot of clamor for Kiryu to be put into Tekken 7.
Really? I mean, I love that.
Well, like, a lot of people have asked, and there's been a lot of, like, fan sites that have, like, petitioned for it and shit. And also they're both under the, like, similar umbrellas and shit like that. But the main reason is that the series, I think it's the series director, I forget his name,
for
Yakuza,
okay,
has gone on record saying that if Kiryu's in a fighting game, because of the diverse cast, he would have to punch a woman at some point.
Okay. And he
does not want that image. He does not want that imagery for his character. That's the reason.
It's just incredibly sort of, I guess we'll call it chivalry at this point.
And that's entirely what it is.
Interesting.
And so that is apparently the be-all, end-all, is that they do not want Kiryu punching women, even if it's in a fighting game. So
it's one of those strange sort of, not hypocritical things, but it's like you get things like that, and it's like
it's a artifact of a bygone era that still exists.
There's so many of those.
But then again,
Kiryu
really does fit that archetype of the of the chivalrous, do no wrong male hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, I understand that reasoning. It still sucks because he would fit in perfectly in something like Tekken 7. But, you know, c'est la vie. It is what it is.
You know what's interesting about... I mean, it pops up a lot of other sort of similar cases in my mind of why a character can't be in a game or why a character... can't but then you see the inverse of that immediately. Like the first thing that I think of when I think of Kiryu not being able to be in their game because you don't want to punch a woman, and I think of Poison. I think of Poison from Street Fighter.
That's a case of avoiding a pothole to dive into a ditch.
Exactly. It's so bizarre. One of the weirdest sidesteps, and this is, if I remember correctly, is on the localization on the North American side's fault.
Only, yeah.
They decided
it's been retroactively muddled.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you know what we can do? This clearly female character, which is female in canon in Japan. We can't have people beating up a woman, even though there are other women that are getting beat up in this same game. Chun-Li, Cammy, etc.
Well, no, this is because we're talking about Final Fight in particular.
Oh, Final Fight, excuse me. And but Final Fight, we're gonna make her a dude, like a trans character.
Yes.
Just to sidestep that whole shtick.
Yeah, because it's easier to beat up on trannies than it is to beat up on women. Apparently, that's what North America translators thought at the time.
Oh man, sweet.
But yeah, and so now it's in a weird position, but because despite that being the mentality of that decision making, because Poison's character has continued to exist to this day, she's in Street Fighter V. She's one of the newest characters. Like. That has continued to be a part of her identity, even if it's not truly canon.
It has been, but they don't do anything with it. Like, the Japanese
right, but what I mean is that, like, when it comes to the fans, when it comes to people who really adore her, and some who, are potentially, like, either very trans friendly or even trans themselves, they likely identify with her because of that erroneous choice that was made back in the day.
And that's interesting because again, the Japanese have never acknowledged it. They never do anything with the character to sort of toe that line or to play up that element of the character, the possible queer / trans nature of Poison. They just play her exactly how they would play her character design wise and motif style. Like, it's all just a normal hypersexualized woman. But I mean, if people want to add that sort of inferred value onto her as like this sort of trans symbol or something that you can relate to, that's fine.
Well, it's kind of one of those, for the company, I see it as kind of one of those, I don't want to say Pandora's box in a negative light, but like in the sense of you already did it. And if you go ahead and be like, yo, all you people that are, being supportive of this trans character, she's not trans, blah, then you're the asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you can't do that. You just can't do that.
Yeah, that's why they just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so good.
If I mean, see it, it's not there.
Even though their heart wasn't in the right place, at the very least, we have a trans character in Street Fighter, and so that area is not covered per se, but it at least has some representation.
And so that's what I thought of when you said Kiryu. Like, that's one of those strange cases where it's like, you say something, but then you immediately do something else. Like, that's like, making a mountain out of a molehill sort of situation. And same thing I thought of immediately with other weird gaming parallel was, oh God, it just flew out of my brain. I just had it and I lost it.
Good job. Way to be a good host.
I know. I'm
Continue
so sorry.
the conversation going.
It was right there in my brain. It was another fighting game character too.
Okay.
The peak of the animals in Tekken 7. The PETA outrage on having Jack the kangaroo.
Yeah.
But not really complaining about literally Panda and Kuma being there.
PETA's always, I mean, at the end of the day, those are like political machines, and like they are there to highlight what they feel like is going to gain traction for their cause at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure, because like it's completely hypocritical. It's like Tekken and Namco acquiesce. It's like, okay, we will not have Jack.
Yeah.
But you clearly don't care about us having these two bears, so we're going to have them fight. And they're like, yeah, sure, fine. Because no one's going to feel sympathy, I guess, for a bear.
Because they've moved on, I guess. I don't know. I would love to get an official statement from PETA, if only to make themselves look like bigger jackasses. Yeah, just to be like, well, you know, if anybody tried to fight a panda, they would get fucked over. Not the panda, the person. Even though I don't think that's true. I don't know. I think pandas can fuck up people. I'm not entirely sure.
Probably just like from a raw strength standpoint, but pandas are like, in my head, like the lowest tier bear.
Yeah, well, no, that one's the black bear, if I remember correctly. Black bears are apparently pussies. Like they will.
No, black bears are S tier.
No, it's brown bears. Brown bears are the piece of shits. They're the ones that
black
like.
Black bears are S tier.
No, black bears are the ones that you can just scare away by like startling.
No, I'm like 90% sure black bears are OP.
Bro, I live among black bears. I have scared them off.
No, black bears are OP, and I'm gonna show you the tier Z list bear thing later.
All right. Well, tier lists aside, I would love to see PETA make an official statement as to why they think that kangaroos cannot hold their own in the King of Iron Fist tournament, but bears and pandas can.
You know, Tekken just means Iron Fist.
Yeah, that's what.
So it's just like Iron Fist tournament of the Iron Fist.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. Because it's not called Tekken King of the Iron Fist tournament. It's just called the King of the Iron Fist, and then it gets translated to Tekken.
Yeah, because I think I read one time where it said Tekken King of the Iron Fist tournament, and then I was like, you mean Iron Fist King of the Iron Fist tournament? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, don't think about it too hard, because they clearly didn't either.
Yeah. Anyway, we're way off the fucking rails. So
I don't know. This is a fun cast. Hopefully you're enjoying it too, audience.
Yes. But we're definitely reaching closer to the hour mark, so let's pop a few things off and we'll call it a day.
There is one thing I wanted to talk about, and it is Metal Gear related.
Yes, I was going to say, I'll lead into that. Oscar Isaac signing on to do the role of Solid Snake in the long reported Metal Gear Solid film. And this was rumored a while ago, actually. 2 years ago, the famous artist Boss Logic kind of made a fan art for it, and Oscar Isaac responded. He's like, I would love to do this. And that was 2 years ago, and then he basically spoke this into existence, because 2 years later, here we are, Oscar Isaac officially being signed on to play the star role. And yeah, like live action video game films have been not exactly on a roll, but
they've finally been able to get produced.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them kind of going around these days. Like Sonic the Hedgehog has its sequel coming out, of all things.
Yeah, that movie probably in the works, if not out.
No, it's filming early next year. And then you've got the Uncharted film that's I think just wrapped filming.
Oh, yeah, because what's his name? Spider-Man is playing.
Yeah, Tom Holland plays a young Drake, and then Mark Wahlberg plays I guess, younger than normal Sully. And that's an interesting combo right there. And then you've got this now.
You got this. You got the Monster Hunter movie that is banned in China, apparently.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the Monster Hunter film that comes out this December from Capcom. And yes, it has. I don't know what it was. Some sort of racial slur that offended the Chinese. That got it banned from their theaters. I'll have to look into that more
Apparently,
deeply.
Capcom doesn't give a fuck. They're like, it's fine.
Oh, really? Japanese don't care about the offense of the Chinese?
No, what I mean is so much that, like, I've said on this podcast when we talked about it that, like, the producers of this film don't give a fuck as long as it sells in China. And now that doesn't seem to be the case. Apparently, they don't care if it sells in China at all.
I don't know, man. Like, this film And granted, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to watch it. I'm a huge, you know me, diehard Monster Hunter
Huge
fan.
fan of racism.
Not racism, dickhead. Of monsters and slaying them. A lot of jokes I would make, but I've already got you fucking finger wagging through the mic at me, so I'll contain that. But
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, but truth be told, Monster Hunter I'm a huge fan of.
Yes,
I'll still watch this regardless. I already know, like, it's like a cyanide capsule that's wrapped in like candy. Like, it's like those Tide Pods, those Tide laundry pods. It looks so tasty. I know it's terrible for me, but I'm already addicted anyway, so I'm gonna die. So, like, I know I'm gonna swallow this terrible film that I know is. I feel so bad for Tony Jaa. I'm sure he doesn't feel bad. He got paid, but like,
oh yeah, man got paid.
But it's one of those situations I don't want to be a part of. But here we are. But the point being, the video game industry is
back to Metal Gear.
Yes, it's exploding in cinema, thankfully, again, and hopefully, this film gets the recognition. Hopefully, gets the attention to detail that I feel like it deserves, because this is a series made by basically a cinephile of a video game developer. Again, a man who wanted to be a filmmaker, but somehow ended up being a video game developer and sort of making games that were essentially amalgamations of film and video games.
Right, but that's what's going to be so weird about it, because like Metal Gear is a ripoff of a lot of shit.
Yeah, you've got, obviously Escape from New York, this other crap, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's a lot of allusions in Metal Gear throughout the entire series to other films.
So it's like what would happen if Harry Potter was a book and then a movie, and then they made a book based on the movie? You know what I mean? Where it's like
it continues to be processed.
It starts to become incestuous about itself.
Well, I mean, that's just how films are
and
made.
Deformities are going to happen after incest. We know that. So the question is, what kind of deformity is the Metal Gear movie going to be?
I wouldn't go so far to say if it's incestuous of the material that it's riffing off of.
I think it will be, because the great thing about the original Metal Gear games is that they took all this like kind of cinematic theming and they applied it really well to the games as how they function.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had these anti-war messages, and even in the gameplay, they still had like consequences of violent actions. So like that kind of melded well together. Was it perfect? No. Like Spec Ops: The Line, of course, did it way later and to much better effect, but it was still effective at its time. But now it's like you have to. Are they going to be able to retranslate that into the movies in a way that's new and surprising, or are they just going to bank on a bunch of references? You know what I mean?
Well, the writer of the film, Roberts, I can't remember his name. I really should have it written down, but I know that he was chosen by Kojima, that he had offered. I believe Kojima is a producer on the film. Mm-hmm. Why would he not be? Yeah. And I believe he pitched the script to him personally, and got like the blessing of of Jesus, of Kojima-sama, and
that's not much of a blessing. I'm not gonna lie.
I know for you it's nothing because he's an asinine writer.
Yeah, but he has great ideas, but he needs an editor.
Yes, we've established
gone over this endlessly.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, or just in your preference, I should say, what would you like to see out of a Metal Gear Solid film? Because you know that we're gonna watch it. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when at this point. Barring any sort of world-ending climactic, event.
Yeah.
We're gonna see
like
this
the one
film eventually. Yes. But if it doesn't finish us off, we're gonna
what I like
watch
to
this movie.
see, I don't want them to tone down the weird ass shit.
Okay,
like,
so you
if
want
anything,
to strain your elements.
It's hard. I wouldn't want it to be a movie. I'd much prefer it to be a series, just because of the length of shit.
But it is a film, so let's just.
But it is a film, so we have to stick with the parameters of a film. I think something close to the actual film Escape from New York would be the better choice, where it's closer to a mood piece than it is a character drama or a like plot heavy event, which is not what Metal Gear people want to hear. I know people love the plot.
You're talking about
people love the characters. No, I'm not even saying streamlining it, because mood pieces are not streamlined. A streamlined thing is making a, audience friendly main protagonist who has a slight defect, like either minor alcoholism or inability to love or whatever, and then putting them through a action-oriented set of circumstances that lead to a ultimate climax and so on and so forth. Like, that's a basic hero's tale that's inoffensive. What I would prefer is just having I would prefer them, because it's probably going to be based on Metal Gear Solid's plot, I assume. Yeah. Me and Matthew, our friend Matthew, had a conversation about, like, what is this going to be based off of? Because he pitched the idea of it potentially being based off of, like, pre-Solid, like Metal Gear Original. I mean, that one barely had a plot, and if anything, that would be closer to the mood piece that I was talking about.
That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think that it has enough bones as a plot to really structure a film. Plus, I believe it's called the Metal Gear Solid films. I'm just off of that infer, I'm just assuming that.
And also, it would make more sense for what modern audiences want to give it the plot of the first game. But like,
Metal Gear Solid,
I don't know. I really think you have to nail, because there's just too much. That's the biggest problem. There's too much in that first game.
Obviously, there's way too much in any game, let alone Metal Gear Solid 2. Even Metal Gear Solid, in my opinion, is like the second most condensed one of the four, or of the five, excuse me.
Yeah. There's a lot you can cut out of Metal Gear 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is the most condensed, despite.
3 is also such a mood, like, they're all such mood pieces, because, like, despite all the plot shenanigans that are often the things that are most referenced for it, I think what really sticks with you is the topics that they bring up in the discussions and what they make you feel within those games. And, like, you really need to set an environment, have a cast that you stay with for a long period of time, and learn their tics, just more so outside of their dialogue than just within the dialogue. So, like, you would need, like, a slow burn of a movie to really nail it, and, like, I don't think modern audiences are really looking for that. I think you're gonna have like the highest action moments of MGS1, along with a few of the, like, most memorable cutscenes and dialogue moments between, like, Psycho Mantis and Otacon and Sniper Wolf. They'll probably cut out the Native American man, Raven. Yeah. Is he Native American? Am I fucking that up?
I believe he is. He's some sort of Aboriginal, but I can't remember.
Yeah, he's spiritual in some sense, and I think they'll cut that out.
Giant and shaman.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll cut that out, and then have it all lead up to Liquid, if even, man. Like that. I'm trying to think of any successful video game movies, and the ones that have worked the most have eschewed any plot that the games have put up to front, and just have gone, these are the pieces, and we'll rewrite how we get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. I mean, it's a different media. I think that the things that I'd like to see is definitely not a one-to-one retelling, because one, it's not even physically possible. They couldn't, if they were going to run through the plot of Metal Gear Solid 1 from beginning to end in any capacity and trying to get all of it in there, it would be the most paced out, terrible mess. I don't even know. It's just physically impossible. There's just too much content.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to figure out, using that setting, I think, Shadow Moses, in the scenario of of dealing with Metal Gear Rex, of Liquid, of Foxhound, and all those political elements and narrative elements. With those pieces, like you said, those chess pieces, how to make the most concise and meaningful story for Snake, so that the audience has some sort of closure after all this.
Yeah.
And while still trying to serve to the spirit of what Metal Gear Solid has become. I feel like that is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You have the, like you said, the meta commentary about anti-war. You have the spiritual side of it that many characters kind of play into. You have just even the meta elements of it, like the little quirks and memes of it that have become part of the Metal Gear fabric. Like you have the fight with Psycho Mantis, the way it kind of affects the television. I'd be interested to see if they had the balls to try something on a scale of a Hollywood film.
They're not. They're gonna. They're gonna use special effects to make everything look amazing and appealing, and like, again, that's the big problem, is that like Metal Gear is iconic for how it uses its medium to tell a story, how it uses video games to tell a story. Like just forcing that through the lens of a movie is just so ass backwards that it just it's gonna feel like your average military action movie. It's gonna feel like Olympus is down, or whatever that movie is called.
I know.
It's gonna feel Olympus like Battleship. It's gonna feel like it's gonna feel like all of those action, and like people give Battleship a lot of shit, but like that movie is like mediocre to okay. Like
that movie's garbage.
Like it's fine. It's not like anything worse than the average.
Back and forth, Michael Bay's Battleship.
Yes. Well, not back to forth. I saw it once and I was like, you know what? That's just that's an Independence Day style military
it's not
action
the worst
film.
It's okay. But the thing is,
yeah,
I don't think that inherently I understand what you're trying to say. Like where Metal Gear Solid is an innovation of storytelling, so to speak. Like in what it does with video games as an interactive medium for art to tell a story is something that is unique, especially like in today's time, not only amongst video games, but in general as a storytelling experience, which is why it's special in so many ways. Now, how are you going to transfer that novelty to film? Now, in my opinion, I feel like there is still a lot of room for innovation in film for storytelling.
Well, so here's the thing about room for innovation, right? You don't know where it exists until somebody brings it up, because that's what innovation is. Innovation is the unexpected, the unknown. You know what I mean? And so unless we actually conceive something here and then the Hollywood execs like pick it up, like there's no way to know. But based on how other properties have been treated, and like I can't see this getting the Marvel treatment, you know what I mean? Where they start from scratch and they have this huge planned out thing.
But you mean like a series, like a film series.
Exactly. But that's what I'm kind of getting at, where it's like they don't have this big narrative plot in mind. They have a few iconic images and iconic characters, and they're going to put it up on the screen in the prettiest dress that they can, and they're going to charge you to watch it. And for those that are cool with that,
like a show pony situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, for those that are cool with that and just have wanted to see quote unquote Metal Gear on the screen, then that's going to be what they want, and that they're going to get what they want. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm saying in terms of it being like a big event that everybody has to go see, no. Like it's going to be the same as all those other military style action movies.
So you feel like this will be sort of like a drop in the bucket sort of situation? Like it's just going to be...
Yeah, it'll probably make its money back. Yeah.
For the film, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see it. I don't see it breaking box offices or anything. Like
I could never conceive of it breaking box office, but I could see. But I'd have a hard time believing someone as dedicated and addicted to the film industry as Kojima not wanting to push the envelope in some capacity. This is like a fairy tale come true situation for him. And
I think he's too wound up in his other projects, and I don't think he even loves Metal Gear all that much anymore.
No, he's definitely. I agree. He's definitely sort of fallen out.
If instead I heard that it was, like Hollywood executive gives Kojima the keys to a studio, then I'd be like, okay, what's this motherfucker gonna do? You know what I mean?
Much more.
It's like when I heard. It's like when I heard. That would be like when I heard that Tyler Perry has his own studios out in Georgia that are not associated with the Hollywood industry. Yeah, it's like, what is Tyler Perry gonna make? I don't like a lot of Tyler Perry stuff, but it's gonna be so different from Hollywood that it's interesting, to say the least. And that's what's amazing about it. But like, you know, this is going to be Hollywood's take on Metal Gear. And what does Hollywood do? It dresses it up in as nice a dress as it can and then just throws it out there. With the exception being the Marvel series. And even then, we're starting to see it get a little stagnant.
Yeah, so, that's the depressing part of it.
I don't have high expectations for the Metal Gear Solid movie, to be quite honest.
Yeah, but I digress.
And I don't mean in the sense that it's going to be bad. I mean in the sense that it's going to be passable and acceptable. But
I want it to be exceptional because I feel like it has. This is material. You couldn't ask for more. I don't know. We'll call it potent material from a video game, narratively, to possibly do something outside of the box when it comes to a movie. But will they do it?
That's the thing. Is that like I think similar to how Star Wars is such treaded ground. I think Metal Gear is treaded ground. I don't think there's anything more you can do with that universe that hasn't already been done in the games. If anything, the only thing that the movie adds value to is people who don't want to play the games.
I think
you know what I mean.
Sort of, kind of. I agree and I disagree. What I mean to say is about that is yes, they are treaded ground. They've definitely been thoroughly explored. Yeah. But with Star Wars and with Metal Gear Solid, for instance, I would say the difference between them, or not the difference between them, but like the different outcome that we could explore, is that I feel like J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, both extremely talented filmmakers, should never have directed this new trilogy.
And you say Rihanna Johnson? You mean
Rian Johnson? Rian Johnson.
Rian. I thought it was
Rian. Yeah. You know who I'm speaking of. Yes. But they should have never directed the new series. The Mandalorian is being done by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Right.
Men who have very intimately understand the material, I think, a lot better. They don't have... I mean, Jon Favreau's got as much clout as you can get at Disney. But, you know, clearly they trusted him more with something like this than with something like a feature film. Which I don't know why, because they've trusted him with multiple feature films. But that's... the point I'm trying to make is I think it's the person.
Okay.
That can affect that change. Same thing with Metal Gear Solid. You can give it to a J.J. Abrams and they'll turn it into, you know...
standard Hollywood A or B movie.
Yeah, a stock Hollywood A or B movie, exactly. But if you give it to somebody who truly cares, and again, I don't know this director intimately well, who is attached to this film, they could surprise you and I greatly with what we end up seeing on film. Hopefully within the next 4 or 5 years, because hopefully this movie's been in development hell for even longer than that, I'm sure. But I think it really depends on the person. But you are correct in the saying that this is definitely well explored material, not only from a character perspective, from the world perspective. So I could see people not having any, like, you'd have to really kind of dig deep to find some sort of new element to it. And that might be what they go for.
And I do also wonder if it's just kind of dated as well, but we'll see. I don't know. I think you need a lot of innovation for a Metal Gear movie to work.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
For sure. But only time will tell. So,
well, speaking of time, I'm looking at our time right now, and oh boy,
yeah, a little long in the tooth, a little random today. But I mean, I think we had a good conversation. We had fun at least, and we went all over the place. So hopefully, you guys listening had a good time, got some worth out of all that rambling. And hopefully, at some point, this podcast will now be available on Spotify, hopefully.
Yeah.
We're still working out the kinks of that, so that may not be available just yet as soon as this podcast is launched on YouTube. But we will see. I know I'm working on getting it on YouTube Music as well, so that you guys can just listen to it.
Nice.
As opposed to using the YouTube app. But, as always, thank you guys for listening. If you guys had any fun thoughts about anything we talked about today, shoot them down in the comments below. If you had a good time, hit the like button, subscribe for more content if you had a good time and want more Otaku Remix content. And as always, have a good day, have a good life, and we will both see you guys on the next one.
Peace.